Hi everyone, Andrew back for another episode of Barista Basics. So as we can see, I am inside. This is about my third time trying to record this video today. And it unfortunately has gotten too dark for me to film outside. So I have migrated inside. So yes, I don't know why I felt the need to mention that, but yes, I'm inside today. So a bit of a different, sort of a change there. I look a big ol' mess because I worked today and closed, so my brain is a bit scrambled, so pardon me if this video is a little bit all over the place. But anyways, yes, so as you can tell from the title, this video is essentially going to discuss how you can increase employee engagement. Now, I feel like this information is especially pertinent considering our current situation, given coronavirus. Obviously, a lot of people, everybody basically is working from home. And so it is even harder to make sure employees are staying engaged when you're not actually physically with each other. So the advice that I'm going to give is, sort of more so applicable to an actual physical work environment, but it can also be, some of them can also be applied to, just lost my train of thought. Like I said, my brain is scrambled. It can also be applied to employees that are working from home. So, without further ado, we can go ahead and get into sort of what I think is probably the most important tip, or all these are important, but this one's very important. And the first one is to provide feedback for your employees, and then also be receptive to receiving feedback from your employees as well. So, obviously, this is very important if you want your employees to stay engaged, because if they feel like they are, that their needs are not being met, then they are obviously not going to necessarily want to put in the effort, into their work. And this sort of plays into employee satisfaction, which is a bit different from employee engagement. Oh wait, did I even define what employee engagement is yet? I don't think so. Let's go ahead and define employee engagement first of all. Employee engagement is sort of a similar concept to employee satisfaction, which is essentially how content or how happy a person is with their job. Employee satisfaction, that is. Whereas employee engagement is sort of the value that an employee places on their work, or how they perceive the organization places value on their work. So it essentially boils down to if an employee feels like the work that they're doing is actually contributing to some sort of greater good, whether it be for, the team that they work with, or, the division, even the organization in general, or perhaps even what the organization does outside its environment, sort of how the organization itself impacts the external environment. All of these are things that can factor into how engaged an employee is at work and sort of how much effort they put into the work that they produce. So that's what employee engagement is, and that is also sort of touches on how it is different from employee satisfaction. So now that we've defined it, we can get back to the first point that I was getting to, which is feedback. So feedback obviously helps to increase employee satisfaction, because if an employee's needs are being met, then, if they feel like that their needs are being met, if they have an issue with something, and they see actual change related to that, they're obviously going to feel more content with their job, which can lead into them being more engaged, producing better work, feeling more motivated to produce better work. And so obviously providing feedback to your employees is very important, because then they know how they can improve. It can provide, obviously how you give feedback is very important. You can't be necessarily mean about it, or that can be quite demoralizing. But, if you provide feedback in the proper constructive manner, then that can encourage employees to try to perform even better. But it's also important with feedback, obviously communication is a two-way street, or at least it should be, and feedback is no exception to that rule either. So not only should you provide feedback to your employees, you should also be receptive to feedback that your employees provide you. So this really goes a long way too, because this showcases sort of you as, a manager or a supervisor, director, whatever. This shows how you genuinely care about, your employees' opinions of you, which, when an employee feels like that their needs are being met and that they're actually being listened to, that can also cause them to, pardon me, by the way, that can also cause them to, want to produce better work. If they feel like their manager actually cares about them and has an interest in, their development as not only an employee but as a human, then they most likely are going to feel motivated to produce better work. So not only is providing feedback super important, but also being receptive to feedback is very important as well. Another piece of advice, also something that I wanted to mention in the beginning as well, is that this is all information that I have learned throughout my time in college. Management with an emphasis in HR was one of my majors in college, and so obviously I took a lot of classes related to it. I even had one class in particular that specifically discusses employee engagement. That was what the whole class was about. And obviously this topic appeared in a bunch of my other management HR classes too. So I have a lot of information and, I have some knowledge on this topic to share, but I just wanted to give sort of a discretionary statement that this information is not coming from my personal experience. It's not like I have tried out this information myself and can verify it. Obviously, I trust the information since I received it from my professors, and they were all very good professors. But I just wanted to put that statement out there that this is not anything that I have myself, unfortunately, been able to try firsthand. So I just wanted to put that out there. Anyways, so, right, the first piece of advice is feedback, both receiving it and providing it in obviously a constructive manner and actually enacting change based on feedback received. The second tip is to provide varied work. Now, this is definitely easier said than done, especially in a corporate structure where, basically people are tasked with doing sort of one job for their career, or, very few select tasks. Usually work like that is pretty specialized, which is understandable, but at the same time, it can also lead to monotony, which is, and most times, the killer of engagement. So I guess I'm going to provide two examples of how you can provide varied work in two different kinds of environments. Obviously, well, it isn't obvious, but the first one I'm going to discuss is actually related to Starbucks, unsurprisingly, because I feel like this is actually a very good example and sort of a more simple example of how providing a variety of tasks can help increase employee engagement. So Starbucks, when you work as a barista, there are three different positions, one of three positions that you can occupy. So there's POS, which, as we discussed a few episodes ago, is essentially, it means point of service, and that's the cash register, interacting with the customer, taking their order, whatever. And also a lot of times it entails warming, which is sort of, as the name implies, warming pastries or, food items or whatever, or just grabbing them. Then there's bar, which, as the name also sort of implies, is the position where you actually are making the drinks. This is usually the busiest position. So there's the bar partner, and then there's the CS partner, which stands for customer support, which is a bit of a misnomer, in my opinion. I think it should more so be called like barista support or partner support, something like that. But essentially, customer support's job is to ensure that the bar partner can do their job. So, they keep stuff restocked, be it cups or milks or lids, what have you. Essentially, so that the bar partner doesn't run out of these things, so that they can just, kind of be in this sort of flow almost with making drinks. So those are the three different positions that a barista can occupy at Starbucks. And so obviously this is a pretty clever structure, because not only does it allow for, it's like a well-oiled machine, it allows for every all of sort of the requirements of the business to be met, but it also inherently is good because it allows for a variety of tasks. So, if you, for example, are like a shift and you notice that one of your baristas has been stuck on bar for the past like 2 or 3 days, and you can tell that they're getting pretty burnt out, maybe they're making more mistakes, or they're getting, more beverages back because, something's wrong with it, or it's just not up to the customer standards, then would be a pretty good time to switch them for a different position, be it POS or CS. And so, as we can tell, or as we, can sort of see, this really helps to increase employee engagement because, like I said, monotony is, for the majority of people, the killer of engagement. So doing the same thing day in and day out with no change, just in general, and sort of no change even in the future, can be very demoralizing and very demotivating. Which, of course, is not going to result in a very engaged employee. Their quality of work is probably going to go down. And it's just really not going to be the best for the employee, or for you as the shift, or the manager, or for the organization in general. So, yeah, the reason I bring that up is because that's a really clever and a clever way for Starbucks to maintain and increase employee engagement, and it also perfectly illustrates this concept of a variety of tasks. Now, this is a bit more difficult, like I said, to provide in sort of a traditional office setting, a traditional corporate setting, because obviously, usually people's work is much more specialized. They are an analyst, or they are a sales rep, or they are, a marketing associate, whatever, what have you. So it's a specialized job, meaning that there's not like a very wide breadth of tasks to do, since they necessarily don't need to do it because there's another person who's hired to do that task. So it, like I said, can be a little difficult to sort of avoid monotony in a corporate setting, but one way that is really helpful to try to avoid it anyways is to provide essentially like a variety of projects, different kinds of projects. So, say for example, one week you provide a project to an employee that is very like computer focused. Maybe it entails a lot of research. Perhaps it utilizes different sort of computer softwares, to sort of provide some variety there within the task itself, within the project. And then say the next week you give them sort of a more like interpersonal one, maybe communicating with another function of the business, or, perhaps even interacting with clientele, what have you. And this, actually, what I'm about to mention could also kind of be its own point, because this is a really good way to increase engagement too. But we can call this like 2.5 then, I guess. But also providing group projects or team projects is very helpful to increase employee engagement too, because obviously this results in, a different kind of work. But not only that, it also just provides sort of a new, almost mini environment, a mini work environment, which keep things fresh. So, obviously, first of all, the employee is going to be interacting with different employees on a more closer level. They're going to be brainstorming, they're going to be think tanking, what have you. And obviously having sort of more opinions, more voices being heard with a certain issue, or, the project or whatever, results in, that's literally variety. Having different people with different opinions, different ideas, is variety in and of itself. So that obviously helps to avoid monotony. And this group projects are also really super great for increasing employee engagement too, because typically you assign a team project for sort of a more big scale sort of project, something that's a bit more time consuming, perhaps utilizes a bit more resources, not only just personnel, but, financial resources, what have you. But totally lost my train of thought again, sorry. So team projects are a really good way to increase employee engagement as well, because not only do that in and of itself provides variety, but it also provides sort of a more long-term goal, since you would only really make a team project for something that is a bit more involved. So obviously, this is going to keep employees very engaged because, they not only feel a responsibility to perform their best work, for their, like, to meet their own satisfaction, but also there are other team members that are reliant on the quality of their work as well. So it kind of puts this almost like social pressure on them to perform even better, which obviously helps to increase engagement. And obviously, with that said, the fact that there is sort of a more further along goal, sort of a more long-term goal, obviously provides motivation to reach that goal, but also greatly increases not only employee satisfaction, well, really employee satisfaction when the goal is met, when it's completed. Anybody can relate, really. If you invest a lot of time and effort into something and then you see it come to fruition and it's a success, and even if it's a failure, that's obviously not as satisfying, but you can still feel satisfied with the work that you put towards it. But especially with successes, that is like the best feeling ever. When you put in lots of work into something and then it's a success at the end, it's like, wow, this, all of my hard work was worth it. So that's another great way to increase employee engagement, is providing a variety of tasks, one of which includes different kinds of projects, including team projects, which are a super great way to avoid monotony. Now, another piece of advice that I would say would be to basically, this relates to sort of the training and development of your employee. Well, at least it should be, if, during that initial sort of part of their training, or like the initial time of them with your corporation or your company, whatever, essentially informing the employee of the value of their work. So that's not like necessarily being like, good job, you did good work. Obviously, that's very helpful and encouraging, but actually letting them see the results of their work. Like how, sorry, that's a weird way to put it. Kind of how they can see their work, how it plays a bigger picture into, either the team or, the certain division or the certain function area, the functional area, or even to the organization at large. Or like I said earlier too, sort of the organization's impact on the external environment. These are all ways to increase employee engagement, because this obviously shows the employee that their work is worthwhile, that they're actually doing something meaningful. They're not just punching in and punching out just for a check, which of course is necessary, but yes, it also will encourage them to provide good work, because this sort of also relates to the point I mentioned with the team project. If they feel like that their work is sort of a key component of, in the outcome and the success of, their functional area or their organization, then that's going to provide, sort of inherent motivation for them to do better work, because obviously they want to see the organization or their unit, whatever, succeed. So that is another really good way to increase engagement as well. And then I did have another fourth piece of advice that I was ruminating on when I was walking home, but it is totally like eluding me right now. Maybe if I review, that'll help me. So we talked about feedback as a two-way street. We discussed a variety of tasks. The second point, which sort of led into 2.5, group projects, group work, teamwork. Then the third point, which I just discussed, relates to letting employees know the value of their work and sort of how their work adds value to the company and sort of to the bigger picture. And my fourth point, honestly, I can't remember. Sorry, my brain is just totally fried. As soon as I'm done recording, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, that was it. But I think, well, this video is already 20 minutes, so maybe it's a sign that I need to end the video anyways. But yes, I do hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that you found this video useful. you know, there was sort of a good bit of information provided in the video, and I hope it wasn't too all over the place. And I do hope that you were able to get something out of it. But yes, I do hope that you guys are doing well. I hope that you are staying safe and sane, healthy, entertained, motivated, and engaged. I guess I'll mention that one, you know, since we're talking about employee engagement. And if you are protesting, I hope that you are staying extra, extra, super duper safe, of course. Always have an emergency contact or two that is reliable in case things go awry. And remember to continue to sign petitions and continue to donate to, you know, local, national organizations that support the Black Lives Matter movement, or, you know, support Black-owned businesses too. All of these are great ways, of course, to uplift people of color. But yes, again, I hope that you guys are having a good day. I will see you next week for another Barista Basics video. I am not going to promise, and everybody's gone to the rapture. I guess it's essentially, I'm just going to say it's on a hiatus until I actually am able to find some time to record it, because it's really hard, especially now, like me and my sister, a couple weeks ago installed our air conditioners, and they are very noisy. Actually, the one downstairs is not on at the moment, so I guess this is kind of a perfect opportunity to record this video. But yeah, so with that, and, you know, just like my family being around and stuff, it's very difficult to find some quiet time to record Everybody's Gone to the Rapture or just, you know, any other sort of gaming video. So it's essentially going to be on hiatus. I'm officially announcing a hiatus, even though it could definitely be you know, implied. But yes, it is on hiatus until further notice. When you see an Everybody's Gone to the Rapture video get posted, you can assume that the hiatus is over. But Barista Basics videos will still continue every week, every Wednesday. So please stay tuned and look forward to that. But yes, again, I hope that you are staying well, and I will see you guys next week for a new video. Take care.